In this video, we are going to start with question 2, and we will start with question 2.1. And without wasting any time, let's get down to it. So we are told that Mrs. Malungelo intends to purchase a cell phone. The service provider offered her prepaid and contract options. The attached annexure A shows the graphs illustrating the cost of each options. Okay, so and we do have a cell phone picture there, and I will also attach annexure A so that you can be able to see what's happening. So without wasting any time, let's go ahead and answer question 2.1.1. 2.1.1. So we are told to identify one element that is missing on the graph in annexure A. So if you look at the graph, you can see that the graph has no heading. So we can see that the graph has no heading. It's just a graph without a heading. And each and every graph needs to have a heading. So we can see that the title of the graph is missing. So we can say title of the graph is missing. Okay, so now let's move to question 2.1.2. 2.1.2. So question 2.1.2 says that which graph will possibly represent the contract option? Give a valid reason for your answer. So if we look at graph, so I do have graphs here on my board, but even on the right hand side I have attached the graph. So graph A is represented by dots and graph B is represented by a line. So our question is that which graph will possibly represent the contract option, and we are supposed to give a valid reason for that. So if we look at graph A, we can see that it starts at 150 and graph B starts at 0 rand. So we can easily see that graph A may possibly represent a contract option because there is a fixed fee that needs to be paid. So we can see that if you don't if you use 0 minutes in a month for graph B, you will pay nothing. But for graph A, if you use 0 minutes, you will still have to pay the 150, meaning that graph A represents the contract option. So we'll say let us not contradict ourselves. Or let's continue using the black marker. So we will say graph A because it has a fixed fee that needs to be paid. Because it has a fixed fee that needs to be paid. That needs to be paid. Okay, so now let's move to question 2.1.3. 2.1.3. So question 2.1.3 says that table 1 below shows the list of equations that can be used to calculate the total for each graph. Use table 1 and annexure A to match the graph and the correct equation. Okay, so we have the first equation and the second equation. So We are going to start with graph A. So with graph A, we already know from our graph is that there is a fixed fee of 150 that needs to be paid, regardless of whether a person has used 10 minutes, 5 minutes, or no minutes at all. The 150 has to be paid. So if we look at our first option, we can see that we are given 150 multiplied by the number of minutes. So we are given 150 multiplied by the number of minutes, meaning that if a person uses 5 minutes, we are going to multiply by 5, and our answer will be, so it will be 150 multiplied by 5. Our answer will be 750 for using only 5 minutes. So we can see that this doesn't make sense. A person can't use 5 minutes and then have to pay 750. Okay, so we can see that this option is not correct. But if we look at our third option, remember with graph A, there is a fixed 150 that needs to be paid, meaning that our equation needs to have 150. Okay, our equation needs to have the 150. Okay, so if we look at the third option, which says 150 plus 1.60 multiplied by the number of minutes. This makes sense because we can see that there is the 150, there is the fixed 150 that needs to be paid. So this is fixed, it needs to be paid regardless. And then the cost per minute is how much? Is 1 rand 60. So there's 150 and there is the cost per minute depending on the number of minutes that has been utilized or used. So graph A will match our third equation. So this makes sense. So now let's move to graph B. So graph B, there's only one option left, which is 250 per minute. So this makes sense as well because there's no fixed fee. In this case, there's no fixed fee, meaning that the cost per minute will be a bit higher. So the cost per minute is 250. So this is the prepaid option, number of minutes. So now we have answered question 2.3.1, and we'll be moving to question 2.1.4. Question 2.1.4. Okay, so question 2.1.4 says that if Miss Malungelo makes calls that are less than 100 minutes per month, which option will be more economical for her? By economical, they mean cheaper. If she makes calls that are less than 100 per month, 100 minutes per month, which option will be more cheaper for her between option A and option B? So we can easily calculate that. So we can start with graph. We can start with graph A, and the equation for graph A is 150 plus 160, and then we can multiply by 100 because they said if she uses less than 100 minutes in a month. So if we plug this on our calculator, we will have 150 plus 1 rand 60. So it's 1 rand 60, not 160. 1 rand 60 multiplied by 100 minutes, the number of minutes, and we can see that it will cost her 310. Okay, so for graph B, let's do the same. Graph B, and we know that the equation for graph B is 250 multiplied by the number of minutes. So we'll just multiply by 100 minutes. And if we plug that on our calculator, we'll have 250 multiplied by 100, and our answer will be 250. So this is clear that between the two options, the one that will be economical or cheaper will be graph B. Will be graph B or option B. So we can say graph B or option B. Option B. Okay, so now we are left with just one question, which is question 2.1.5. And we don't have enough space, so we can just erase everything. You can just erase everything. Okay. So we will answer question 2.1.5. So question 2.1.5 says that explain the term break even according to the given context. So in this context, break even, it is when the contract option and the prepaid have the same total cost for the same number of talk time minutes. This means that either options will have the same cost. So if you use option A, so for using option A, you will spend the same cost as using option B. So they are both equal. That's what break even means. So in short, we can just say it is when the contract option and the prepaid option have the same total cost. So it will cost the same for the same number of talk time minutes.